And action. Thank you so much for tuning in to our presentation. It's been a very bumpy ride trying to get this presentation out, trying to get this content out, but we're finally here, and we're finally here to discuss the racial wealth gap and the Eastside Cafe. So before we get into all of that,
My name is Michelle Servin, and we're from Isabel's 1H section.
yee, and my name is Iwan Herrera. So let's go ahead and get into the racial wealth gap and the Eastside, this beautiful nonprofit Eastside Cafe. So first and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and address what this racial wealth gap is. Right. Before I get into the racial aspect of the wealth gap, let's address what just the wealth gap itself is. So basically, the wealth gap, when talking about wealth or your net worth, as you could also call it, we're going to be talking about the value of one's assets minus your debts, right? So these assets can take on the form of cash, home, land, stocks, bonds, life insurance. If we have some cash, we have a home, we have land, and we have stocks, right? But now that we have just a general understanding of what wealth is, what makes it racialized? Well, first, let me go ahead and give you some statistics here. I'm sorry that you can't really take a look, but I'll go ahead and expand on these. First and foremost, this graph right here in this video, we can go ahead and zoom in. So this video right here, it shows the wealth inequality in the United States. So here you have this line indicates the wealth of just the white race, and and it's compared to the wealth that of blacks and Latinos. And as you can clearly see, there's just a very tenfold, 15-fold difference in the wealth of these blacks and Latinos compared to their white counterparts. And if you really look at the years down the line, actually Latinos and blacks, or just everyone, but more specifically Latinos and blacks, are actually going broke. So that they're losing the current wealth that they have is diminishing absolutely. And another statistic that we have right here is that in 2016, white families had a median net worth of $171,000, and that is compared to 20,000 more or less for Latinx families. And another statistic that we have on here is that Latinos are almost 3 times less likely to have a bank account compared to the general population. And really, the way this has all come about, the way it's like we've studied this in this class. There's a whole lot of social barriers and a lot of it's very systemic, right? And that's what's kept people of color from achieving and enjoying economic success.
So this is the organization we worked with. It's Eastside Cafe. It's a nonprofit stabilized in El Sereno. It's founded by Zapatistas who were known to declare war for their independence in Mexico. And their quote is "Slowly we advance." So they want to reclaim these communities. They want to fight gentrification, and they want to do this in the hands of the people. So it's a really community inclusive organization, and they want to build a citywide network that's more communal. So they want to put it more in the hands of these Latino and African American communities rather than making it more elitist and gentrified how it's been recently.
And that's perfect that you end your slide with this word gentrification, because it's actually the reason why, as a collective, as a discussion, as a group, we decided to work with and highlight Eastside Cafe in our presentation. The thing that stands out to all of us, and actually it's very near and dear to my heart and very personal to myself, is that Eastside Cafe, what they were able to achieve with their space, is a form of direct resistance to the so-called gentrification. So what they did was that they purchased the building that they occupied, right? And like I said, this is being a direct resistance against gentrification, which is of course a consequence of the racial wealth gap that we're discussing. So let me go ahead and tell you this beautiful story. So this story starts about 2 years ago. 2 years ago, the owner of the space where Eastside Cafe is put up the property for sale, right? And as of when he put it on sale, Eastside Cafe, the main inner circle, they got together and they were trying to figure out ways of how to really how they were contemplating ideas of how to purchase space, or maybe kind of what to do with the situation, but it seems like nothing really got rolling, and it didn't get real, and kind of just the topic wasn't really discussed until one day on May 1st, I believe it was May 1st of this year, they found out that the property was actually up for sale. and they actually heard of it. They found out the property was up for sale. Sorry, there was an offer. There was an offer already. They had already started the buying process. A strip mall developer wanted to buy the space, and then they actually confronted the owner about it afterwards. And they were given an ultimatum that in 10 days they had to come up with 120,000. 10 days they had to come up with $120,000 to open escrow and get the strip mall developer to walk away. And actually, they achieved it, right? And like Michelle had mentioned, they had this very Zapatista attitude. And like the Zapatistas that they are, they went out, they set out this goal, they embarked on this, campaign, this fundraising campaign, and they succeeded. And ultimately, they fought gentrification, and they won.
Okay, so how did they want us to help? A couple of people from our outreach team met up with a representative from Eastside Cafe, and they asked of us to make a t-shirt design that represented their organization. They wanted a new website, so they just wanted to reconstruct the look of their website. They also asked for a community survey distribution, so a couple of members from our section went out into the community and asked different homes what types of fruits they would like to see, how they feel about certain topics going on in El Sereno. And they just wanted general research regarding what the community of El Sereno wants, what they demand, what they're lacking. So how did we help? We actually went out and did the survey, like I said, and we conducted them firsthand what the people of El Sereno want directly. So we let them know what type of produce they would want and what financial aspects they're lacking in. And we're currently remodeling their website. We're working with Eastside Cafe. We made them a t-shirt and we made them an infographic with all the statistics of El Sereno. And here's the t-shirt. So basically, this is the Eastside Cafe logo, and then you can see the caracol, which represents the slowly we move slogan that they have, and you can see the Zapatistas on the caracol, and it says educational, cultural, health organizing space, which is like Eastside Cafe's motto.
Yes, and now here we have a look at the infographic that we actually developed for them. And basically, a lot of the information, the statistics that we have on this comes from the fact that we went ahead and surveyed people in the neighborhood and asked them about their thoughts on kind of the surrounding area of Eastside Cafe, and then, kind of just get an idea of what kind of people were in the community, what kind of people get involved with the Eastside Cafe, and, kind of wanted to segue into also really because the people that are around it kind of are define the future of, the area, and especially dealing with these topics of gentrification and whatnot. So it's definitely very valuable information. They went ahead and gathered it for them and put it all together for them. So I'm very, very happy that we got to do that.
So basically our question for the class is now, how is this relevant to intersectional resistance? So basically, as you know, the racial wealth gap affects everyone regardless of your race, your ethnicity, your socioeconomic status. You're contributing to the economy of this nation. So in one way or another, we're all affected by the racial wealth gap. And especially us as Chicanos, we need to empower and resist, just like Eastside Cafe did by buying the space. We need to get our wealth up, our assets up, in order to start closing the racial wealth gap and slowly getting back up there and evening things out. So we need to take action on this, or eventually our communities will become impoverished and essentially wiped out.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and coming from this intersectional standpoint, where we're being oppressed in a very intersectional way, so also the resistance must be multidimensional. It can't be one-dimensional. Different facets to political, economical, and then from very just educative and liberating kind of different ways. So it's very important because as I mentioned earlier with one of our graphs and one of our statistics, over the years our wealth hasn't been going up. It's slowly but steadily declining, and eventually we get to a point where there's just zero wealth, and we have to avoid that at all costs.
So yeah, thank you.
So
that
once
was our
again,
presentation.
yes, thank you so much. Appreciate it.